This is why you should never get away with murder. A woman named Sophia met a man named Daniel in high school. The couple would always talk about their future and how they wanted to travel when they were older. A couple years later, Sophia gives birth to a little girl named Mia. Mia was the average kid and always loved to carry around her blonde baby doll. One night while Mia was sleeping, Sophia went upstairs and killed the little girl. The couple hid the knife and doll in a box and got away with murder since there was no evidence. 10 years later, Sophia is pregnant again. She gives birth to a little girl named Olivia who had blonde hair. A few years later, they're sitting in the kitchen and Olivia finds the hidden box with the doll and knife inside. Olivia picks up the doll and looks at her mom and says, "I remember playing with this in my old body."
My house gets more haunted every single day. So as always, I was up late last night because I didn't have school today. So I was up really late doing my makeup, looking all good. And it seems like every time I'm up doing my makeup, something happens. So I go into my dad's room because he has like this really big mirror. And he was at work, so I was like, okay. So I go in there to, look at myself in the mirror, check myself out. And I start hearing little creaks behind me, little tee-tee-tee-tee. So I start getting freaked out and I go to my room to go grab my phone. And my room's like right over there, my dad's room's right over there. And from my room, you could see my dad's mirror. So I'm walking out of my room and I look into my dad's mirror and I see a face staring at me. And what do, you might ask? I ran outside at midnight and I sat out there for about 2 hours. Before I got too tired, I just went to bed. Do you guys want to see the mirror? This is the mirror that I saw a face in. How beautiful. But it only gets worse.
Today I'll be telling you about the purple fingernails. So one day, this little girl and her mom were shopping in the mall, and in one of the department store windows, there was this really pretty Barbie doll that had blue eyes and blonde hair. But what really caught the little girl's eye was that the Barbie doll had really bold purple fingernails. And so since Christmas was right around the corner, she asked her mom to get her that Barbie doll. When Christmas morning came, the little girl was super excited to find out that the doll she had wanted was under the tree. She played with it all day, and when nighttime came, she put the little doll next to her bed on her dresser. And in the middle of the night, the little girl awoke to hearing strange noises. She rolled over in bed to grab her doll, but her doll was nowhere to be found. So the little girl creeped into the hallway and she seen that her parents' door was open. So she went to her parents' room, only to find them sound asleep. So she went back to her room and fell asleep. Part 2 is already up.
What's an ordinary thing that you should be afraid of? Escalators. Escalators are literally human death traps. It's estimated that escalators are responsible for around 17,000 injuries per year in the United States alone. Not only can you plummet to your death by falling off the handrail, you can also be crushed to death if you happen to fall inside of one. And just for reference, this is what the inside of an escalator looks like. There have been multiple cases of people getting their clothing and hands caught in escalators, losing their limbs, and sometimes even their lives. In 2013, a Seattle man got his shirt caught in an escalator and was strangled to death. In 2011, a Beijing escalator malfunctioned, causing it to rapidly start moving in reverse, causing a huge pileup with 27 injuries and 1 death of a 13-year-old boy. And in 1987, a woman took an escalator on her way into work when the steps she was standing on collapsed under her feet and sucked her inside. So if I were you, I would stick to the stairs.
This is why you should always sleep with a lamp on. A woman named Katie drove home from a long day of work. She puts her keys down and begins cooking dinner. She sits down, eats her dinner, and begins watching a late night TV show. She watches the show for a few hours, realizes what time it is, and begins to go to bed. She walks through the hallway and turns her light off. She feels like she just saw something behind her and turns the lights back on. She realizes something is there, goes into her room, and immediately gets under the covers. Her lights start flashing, and then it gets quiet. She peeks her head outside from the covers. Send this video to a friend to see if they can make it all the way to the end. If you guys want to see more stories like this, make sure to like and follow.
Creepiest things that have happened to me as a nurse, part 14. This story did not happen to me personally, but I found it on a Reddit forum and I, oh my gosh, have to share this picture with you so you can be just as creeped out as I am. Disclaimer, I don't suggest that you watch this video at night by yourself or while you're working night shift, but according to the algorithm, you're probably gonna be at all 3 when this video comes to you. In an ICU in Kentucky, there was this patient that was experiencing all sorts of hallucinations. They have a video camera in the ICU, which is pretty common now, and they captured this on camera. Does that not look like some sort of demon on top of the patient? The patient died just 3 hours after the nurse took this picture. What is that?
So what? What? Yes. Let's go.
Bro.
I don't know. Dude, hurry. Leah, what's the problem?
She's here! She's here!
Please calm. What's going on?
She was watching me!
Where'd she go?
Where is she? Look in the closet. There's nothing in here. Listen,
She just
Leah,
vanished.
I think she's having a nightmare or something. Your sister's not a monster, okay? She's just going through a tough time right now.
Bro, watch the cam footage and you'll say otherwise.
Dude, let's just go. Are you okay? Okay.
Oh, she was right behind the door.
Do you hear that? She's screaming again.
Dude, kick her off the bed.
She stopped, bro.
Dude, she just like took her soul.
She's having bad dreams or something.
Every child fears what's under their bed. If they don't, they fear what's in their closet or under their desk. Scientists know that children are way more perceptive. They see things adults just don't. They aren't yet tethered into accepting what society wants them to accept. They see what's truly there. If you were to borrow a child's eyes for a night, you would go insane. To be able to see what you only dimly remember, burrowing into your blanket in train pajamas, praying to a god that you barely comprehend that it wouldn't see you back. This would drive an adult insane because they forget the rules. Number 1, cover yourself. If you can't see it, it can't see you. Number 2, don't make a whimper. Every noise can lead to your destruction. Don't move, it attracts their attention. Number 4, only light can make it go away. Us teens are caught in the middle. We don't see what's there, but we feel it. And we forget the rules. Why do you think there's so many insomniacs scrolling through TikTok right now? It's because subconsciously they think the light from their device can keep them away. It's not. Now look behind you with a child's eyes and try not.
Take a look at your old photos, for you might catch a glimpse of the man with the upside down face. The upside down man is one of the most meanest and evil monsters. He loves to cause pain and death in order to feed off that energy. Photos from the 1910s to the 1960s started appearing online, and they look just like tragic events until you look closely at the background and you see the monster. He is not able to cause tragic events, but he is able to make the situation worse, like making arguments turn violent and blowing out tires to cause an accident. If you guys like monsters, scary stories, and lore, please support this video by liking it. Thank you.
This is why you should always lock your front doors. A kid living with both of his parents decided to watch a movie for their family weekly movie night. He then gets up to use the restroom. As he is in the restroom, he sees all of the power in the house cuts off, and then he hears 2 loud thumps. He locks the bathroom door and hears heavy objects being dragged across the hallway. The kid, freaking out, runs out of the bathroom and runs into the restroom. Once he is inside the room, he locks the door. As he locks the door, he jumps in bed and acts like he's asleep and hopes that this person who is in the house will ignore a child sleeping. He closes his eyes and hears the door creak at the same time. He squints his eyes and sees a man with no eyes dragging the bodies of both of his parents. The man dragging his parents sits his mom's dead body in a chair facing him, and then sets the dad's body on the floor facing up. It was almost like whoever was in the house who killed them wanted him to see it. He then sees the man writing something on the wall and then climbs under his bed. He laid there for hours knowing that if he moved a muscle he would end up just like his parents. He finally built up enough courage to read the wall, and the writing on the wall said, "I know you're awake."
Believe it or not, this is a well-documented true story. In 1947, an American ship picked up a horrifying distress signal coming from an unidentified vessel. The first transmission was all officers, including the captain, are dead. The next transmission was the whole crew is dead. The last transmission was I die, and then silence. The Americans trace the signal back to a ship that's drifting off in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They quickly assemble a rescue team who boards the ship. They find the entire crew has perished in the exact same position. They are on their backs with their hands up as if fighting with some unseen force, and they look like this. There was no physical damage to the bodies or to the ship itself. However, even though it was 100 degrees outside, it was 40 degrees on the ship, and the bodies were rapidly decomposing. As soon as they tie up the ship to tow it in, it explodes, and then it sinks. To this day, no one knows what happened inside of that ship. Some say it was a chemical leak, others aren't so sure.
What is a creepy, unexplained childhood experience that you had?
When I was a kid, my family and I lived in a house in Texas. It was a 2-story house and my parents were putting my little sister to sleep in her crib. Then they went on downstairs and I continued to play with my toys at the top of the staircase. For some random reason, I decided to look at the bottom of the staircase and I saw my sister crawling around on the ground. So I thought to myself, I wonder how she got down there. Then I remembered, my parents had just put her in the crib about 5 minutes ago. So while I stare at her, I realize that she's a little pale and she has huge black eyes, but otherwise she looks just like my sister. So naturally, I start screaming and my parents come running. I'm hysterical and my parents are asking me what's wrong. I point and I say, look, there's Sneha, she's at the bottom of the staircase. She was gone. Around my 18th birthday, my family and I took a trip to India. We were visiting my grandma and one night she decided to oil and braid my hair and my sister's hair. So as my grandma was braiding my sister's hair, she looked over at my mom and she said, Ritu, Sneha's twin would have been a girl. I look at my mom and I say, what twin? And my mom looks at me and says, Swasti, I never told you this, but I miscarried Sneha's twin.
This is a 𝐼𝓂𝓃𝓉. You might recognize it from this video that surfaced in 2018 of Post Malone touching it inside of Zach Bagans' haunted museum, and most of us know that didn't end well. But what is a 𝐼𝓂𝓃 and why is it considered the most haunted item in the world? The 𝐼𝓂𝓃 is a wine box that was purchased in 2001 by an American man at an estate sale in Spain. When the man learned that the item was a family heirloom, he offered to return it to the family, but they insisted that he keep it. The box was purchased by the family's grandmother after the Holocaust had ended, but it sat unopened inside of her sewing room because the grandmother was convinced a 𝐼𝓂𝓃 was inside of it. 𝐼𝓂𝓃 is a demon that has the ability to possess different items. When the American man brought the box home, he opened it up, and this is what was inside. Inside the box, there were 2 locks of hair, a single candle holder, 2 pennies from the 1920s, and a small statue with the Hebrew word peace inscribed. Like for part 2.
Mr. Fritz is a ventriloquist doll that was caught moving one night. So this doll's from the 1940s. He was always haunted and couldn't find a home. He was given to Michael Diamond, who owns a bunch of weird stuff in his home. He was kept in this case, but for a couple weeks, Michael noticed the door kept opening in the middle of the night. Michael decides to set up a GoPro, and this is what he sees. Oh wait, there's more. He was also caught moving his eyes and mouth. Watch his mouth. But the real question is, do you guys think it's real or fake?
Don't ever touch anything. And if you do, let me know. This is the worst thing in here.
Did you know that that was a warning from Lorraine Warren herself? And if you don't know who Lorraine Warren is, ever seen Annabelle or even Conjuring? This is the actor that played her in Conjuring. She passed away in 2019, leaving behind one of the most haunted museums in the world. So many bad things happen to people that just touch the stuff in this museum that she had to get a priest in there to bless it often. And ever since she's passed, the museum has been closed for rezoning. But I just want to know, who's taking care of her?
Dark things Disney doesn't want you to know? Part 4. Today, let's talk about the mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Corium. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship. On March 22, 2011, while working on the cruise ship, Rebecca disappeared without a trace. This is one of the last photos taken of her, and it was from CCTV footage. At 5:45 a.m. that morning, footage revealed Rebecca talking on the phone with someone. She seemed visibly distressed. Now here's where it gets twisted. Many people believe that Disney knows exactly what happened to Rebecca, but are trying to cover up this whole thing. Let me explain. For starters, the captain of the ship said that Rebecca was just washed over by a big wave. They then gave Rebecca's parents a sandal and said that this was hers and it was retrieved from the deck that she was last seen on. Number 1, the sandal wasn't her size. Number 2, it wasn't her style. It was also revealed that Disney had edited the CCTV footage. Check out part 2 on this case for more information.
A boy near the border of Syria and Israel was born with a long red birthmark on his head, and around the age of 3, the boy started to claim that he was murdered in his past life. This doctor and a German therapist started to follow the boy closely, and the little boy told them the story of how he was struck and killed with an axe. Under the evaluation of the doctor and therapist, the boy took them and the town elders to the place where he thought his previous body was buried. And sure enough, after hours of digging, they pulled up a skeleton from the dirt. The skull had an obvious blow to the head, which matched up perfectly to the birthmark the boy was born with. He was also able to give the name of his killer, who at first denied the claims, but later admitted his guilt after the boy's former body and murder weapon were found.
What happens if you wake up during surgery? In 2008, Donna Penner was booked in for an exploratory laparoscopy at her local hospital. It should have been a routine procedure, but for some reason, the general anesthetic failed. With her body still paralyzed by the anesthetic drugs, Donna was unable to signal that anything was wrong. Over the next 90 minutes, she was forced to feel horrific pain as the doctor made the incisions on her body and moved around her internal organs.
Located in a cemetery in Vermont, there is a grave with a window to peek inside. This grave belonged to a man named Timothy Clark Smith. Timothy had a fear of being buried alive. This may seem like an irrational fear, but it was actually more common than people realize. Timothy patented a design for his own gravesite. Not only did he include a window on his tombstone, he also built a contraption that included a bell. In the case that Timothy woke up underneath the ground, he could pull a string and ring the bell to signal for help. Timothy passed away on Halloween in 1893, and he never needed to use the bell. The window to his grave is still there, although the visibility to see inside of it is very low after the years. But I can't imagine being a gravekeeper, hearing a bell ringing in the middle of the night, knowing that you are the only one there.
This girl right here was babysitting and found a weird CD that said, "Do you want to see a ghost?" and took it home. What happened next when she put the CD in was terrifying. I'm gonna roll the clip right now.